yes, if you want access to private equity, which is probably one of the better returning classes, you got to be KYC in the United States. You got to have at least $500,000. The reason for it is the government doesn't want people blowing all their money in assets that take a long time to get back. So if you can use the blockchain to decentralize it and give it access to the people that are KYC to 500,000, because most private equity firms won't even look at you unless you write a $10 million check. So you don't have access to that asset class. But if you did decentralize it and you could create a pool of capital where people that have 500,000 can participate in it, you're still within the regulation, and you more than quadruple the private equity space just by doing that.
There's another aspect. Another aspect. First of all, I agree on the principle.
Yes,
I agree on the. Now we agree. Hi. Apologies for being late. I'm Tomer Sofinzon. I'm an entrepreneur in the blockchain space and also a founding partner of True Global Venture, a decentralized VC. So this is an aspect that concerns us. I think first of all you're right on the aspect. There are two aspects to it. Number one, if we're looking at the return of the venture asset class in general, it's a failing asset class. So we can generalize and say that accredited investors or venture capitalists in general actually know what they're doing, because the vast majority of them don't. As they don't return, you're much better off put your money in an S&P. So you have to be an extremely rare breed of venture capitalists to actually know what you're doing. The second aspect of it is the introduction of liquidity. Mm-hmm. So when you're actually introducing liquidity to both on the side of the venture fund with the LP as well as for the startup, it gives an ability to investors on all sorts to basically return their money whenever there are. Now, liquidity and the asset class in general are not going to solve humanity. On that, I agree with you. So that's a very good point. But the introduction of blockchain enables us, and the introduction of the tokenization in general enables us to do things that we were not able to do before. So let's at least recognize that. And with that, let's create a better financial system with more transparency, with better liquidity, etc.
I still think we have significant problems, right? Venture capital is a broken asset class, so I don't disagree with that.
Agree.
Only the top quartiles return. I don't disagree with that. But I look at we are swallowing up ICO companies because they raise too much money and they don't have a valuation. So that system is broken too.
Sure.
So you have a lot of things that you have to think through. But blockchain decentralized is not going to fix venture capitalists. You actually have to have someone that understands what they're investing in. So the venture capitalist is the person making the investments. The capital is secondary to that. So you have to have guys that know what they're doing. And even then, 1 in 5,000 startups get to $100 million valuation. That's not saying they're successful. They just get to $100 million valuation. So how many are entrepreneurs in this room? All right. Every one of you didn't get past the 1 in 5,000. So you're out. Right? So now we have to get back to, if you're going to be in decentralized space, which I agree is going to become pretty powerful as the technology gets up to it, but you actually have to have fundamentals in your business. You can't just say, I'm building a blockchain this. Who's going to use it? Why are they going to use it? And I will promise you, there is no way in at least the next 20 years, people are going to be using tokens. We have plenty of credit cards and other forms of payment that work just fine. Now you can tokenize things, and I agree with that, and you can have governance, and I agree with that. But this idea that everything is a token, what is the commercial model? How do you make money? I don't care about your token, security token, food token, fish token. Tell me how the business makes money. And the problem we have, and why I have so much energy, is we look at these companies, and most of them fail on fundamentals. Simply put, if you're going to go do a decentralized company, tell me what the decentralized tech is doing that the centralized tech can't do. Start there. Then tell me what that decentralized tech creates, what commercial model it creates. I ask entrepreneurs that, they can't even get through the first gate. So that's the push we should have in this room.
I can give you an example. So today you can list your equity token on a token in one day and make it available for 6 billion internet users for trading. However, the regulation is that only qualified investors can trade securities which are not publicly structured. It's like A in US, and the level of income should be like $1 million to get access to trade these securities. And the reason for this is that because they can to take risk of lemon, or they're educated enough to solve this lemon problem in some way. And this is something you agree with. You think that there should be some ban of access for less wealthy and less educated
Because
persons,
if you don't do that,
because it's a gambling.
you're
right?
going to create massive fraud.
Yes.
Because people
Yeah.
are going to create companies
Massive frauds.
and they're going to defraud people out of money
Yeah.
that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's why we have some of these regulations that we need.
Yeah.
So-
And what about elections?
Well,
Shall we cut access for less wealthy and less educated people to
That's-
invest into
Don't
politicians
confuse
with
investment
their
with
votes?
elections. I wouldn't confuse investing with elections. Elections are based on people voting in their countries, and whether they're paper or digital. Yes, there's fraud. So yes, you can fix those. You don't necessarily need a decentralized system to fix fraud. You just put reputable people that are maintaining it. So I wouldn't confuse the election scenario with investment scenario. I feel if you create coins and you give it out to people and say, hey, invest in my company, you're going to have a lot of bad actors there.
Yeah, but there is a dilemma. Either you give people to get experience and learn how to vote to survive in the future, and maybe the same works with investment. Maybe you invest into education of people and help them to learn how their decisions influence the economy, influence their value of their portfolio, and then they're better educated citizens who understand how economy works, and who understand how actions of politicians, of regulators, of companies influence economic growth and their wealth today, now, immediately, because they have stakes. Yes.
You mind?
Okay.
Okay, because that,
Actually, I am moderating, so I just give away my chair. Yes.
I'm doing it, so I want to answer the question.
Okay, one question.
Okay, so the question was basically, should accredited, non-accredited investors be allowed to participate in offerings? And then I think you posed the query as in, if they have more than a certain amount of money and are educated, then they're qualified to invest. That correlation is false. Okay, as a matter of fact, most of the higher educated people have higher income, yet less wealth, all from investing. Okay, many high income earners, such as doctors, are victims to the highly regulated industries, such as brokers, small, medium-sized brokers, even the large ones, Goldman Sachs, etc. Number one. Number two, the advantage of using a decentralized system, like a distributed system, is you lower costs. If you lower costs below the structural inefficiencies of the current system, you have greater efficiency. The structural inefficiency of the current system is they're overcompensated. Investment banks pay between 35 and 60% of gross revenue in compensation. I create a structure, right, below that 30% margin. It's cheaper for everybody involved. Investment banks can't get involved. If they do, they have to cut costs. Better for everybody involved. Those costs are not distributed between shareholders and customers. The investment banking industry, Wall Street, is the only industry in the world where the employees make more than the owners of the company. That answers both of your questions and the query that you posed.
I don't think there is a disagreement with Reggie, my friend Reggie there, about the distribution of wealth, distribution of capital across many more people. But I think to my new friend here that I don't know yet,
It's Jeff.
that he made the point that the fundamentals remain fundamentals, meaning that it's not blockchain or any other technology, for that matter, that will make a bad company a great company, and the other way around. So we all, I think, are here because we believe in creating this new decentralized system because it's better, it's more distributed, and therefore less, I would say, proponent to have these ups and downs potentially, more resilient maybe to bubbles in the future, and so on. But bad companies will remain bad companies, and you need to look at the underlying fundamentals of the company, the quality of the entrepreneurs, the quality of the market dynamics, in order to assess whether it is a good company that will actually make it and will become the next I don't know what, or not.
But the plot is being judged on market valuation, which is not economic. Look at Twitter, which can't bring profit. Look at Snap. Look at WorldCom. I can go down the list. So market valuation does not equal economic quality. Market valuation equals how much a particular bank was able to come to really support the liquidity of the stock.
Can I
Look at economic quality, earnings.
Can I just add an observation, because I sort of see the points that were raised, but I wouldn't go as far. Maybe I'm a liberal from Holland to just tell people you cannot invest in cryptos because you don't have the money and you don't really know what you're doing. Because I think that it's important for these people to have access to this technology. And it's every time that you have financial innovation, it was pointed out already that there is you plant the seeds for 1,000 flowers, and indeed one out of 1,000 will make it. But that doesn't mean that I can't buy all of these companies and then benefit from that single flower that made it, and that became a new Google or whatever it was. Because if we talk about income inequality, and that's where we started, and we have these people that don't have the wealth and didn't go to school for whatever reason, and they can't participate in these growth companies this way, then we're never solving the inequality issue at all.
The problem
so
is
I don't
tokenize to participate. They can buy equity. Anybody can buy in the open market.
The problem. How do you
should be allowed to pool?
How do you protect the grandma from the street to put 50% of her savings into a startup that has a very, very high chance to go bankrupt? That's the point as well.
Can I step into that?
Of course.
Okay. I tell you a story. End of the 90s, my grandmother called me one day and said she's becoming a trader now. She's going every day to the bank and she looks at the TV and she buys stocks. Yeah. It's like, I think it's not a good idea. So she went in the morning with the crutches to the bank, which at that time opened at 9 and closed at 12.
What year?
That was, I'm coming from Germany, so we are a bit behind in technology. That was like 96, 97. Of course, it didn't work out because one day she found out about options. I thought that's even cooler because I can do much more. So that was one story. Now I look at her portfolio and what do I see? No, I see standard products from banks which have high costs of compliance, which I see all the time, where I think, so what's the benefit even for my company, for my funds, when we have got calls with the directors, with like 20 people on the calls, auditors, directors, compliance people, whatever, and I have to pay all of them for the protection of the investor, which of the end result is that all these people sitting in the standard normal products. So I think we need to find ways that people can invest in a very diverse range of assets.
Sure.
The question is only, how do we regulate that? How do we do that? And I think the current way, where we have basically moved from very low regulation to extreme regulation in all fields, which probably is going to at some stage turn again. We have to find more solution for that. So I don't necessarily agree to block it and make it dependent on certain asset size, etc.
I don't think anyone around this panel wants to stop this thing. At the same time, we really have, because this is the only way that the regulators also, on the other hand, is going to allow entrepreneurs and funds like here around this panel to basically create this revolution. The only one question that they have in mind, that how do you protect investors? People around this panel,
I'm a bit cynical about that. I'm not sure if that's really at the heart, the idea they have.
At the end, they are. They have done mistakes also in the past. We all know, but I think that when you're talking to regulators in general, I think it's their primary concerns. They don't necessarily know what's the best way. They don't have all the answers. They're learning about blockchain. They're learning about these new things. But at the end of the day, they really try to do the right thing for the protection of investors, and we should do the same.
Sorry, guys.
can't listen to this. They divide and conquer what is done since thousands of years with us. I'm feeling myself like in Monopoly. You know what's Monopoly, the game? You play it, and at the end, you actually already know who's losing, but you have to play it until the end. What is changing this world we are living in? There's actually two things. The first thing is collaboration. I can give you a good example. When you look into cybersecurity, why the hackers win? Because they collaborate. Why governments lose? Because they don't collaborate. I just was at a security panel, and the colonel told me in the Afghanistan war, wherever, they had 7 computers because even in between the armies, they couldn't share information. So collaboration is one very important point. And the second, sorry for being the bad guy, the second solution is we need to get rid of maximizing profits. Companies are winning and we are losing because everything is built on maximizing profit. Sorry for being the bad guy.
Not the companies that are looking on the long term. Not companies are looking on the long term. They're not. If you look at the performance of the companies that are today, the leaders of today, okay. For example, Amazon.
Like Google, who said before we are the good guys.
No. I'm answering your specific comment about maximizing profit. Okay. When did you see Jeff Bezos, for example? And I'm not saying that Amazon is, the white knight that is going to save the world. It's not. I'm just saying that the maximizing profit has never been the mantra of Amazon, okay? And it has created a lot of wealth for that. Maybe for the shareholders, maybe it's not shared across, maybe it's not distributed enough. The second thing that you said about cybersecurity, I believe it's incorrect. It's not collaboration that I've been in cybersecurity sometime, yeah. And you know as much as I do that it's not collaboration that makes the hacker successful. You know what makes the hacker successful? It's because it's an unfair war. It will always be an unfair war. You have to protect your system 365 days, 24/7. The hacker needs you to fall asleep for 5 minutes. That's why they can collaborate and they can do much harm. That's why we as an industry, we need to step up in terms of security measures and other measures.
So I just want to say 3 quick things. And unfortunately, I have to leave because I'm speaking at something else. But 3 quick things. Number 1, the future. The only thing we know with certainty about the future is that we cannot predict the future. And so we're all going to have anxiety related to that. And that's just an axiomatic fact. The second thing is, as it relates to our technology today, as of today, the technology has never moved faster in mankind's history, womankind's history than today. And as of tomorrow, it will never have moved slower because it's going like this. And so when we're sitting here thinking about where the future is, the human mind, because unfortunately every person in this room is trapped in a 100,000-year-old piece of machinery that has not had a software upgrade since the caveman. It just hasn't. Your iPhone went from iPhone 1 to iPhone 10 in 10 years, but you're living in the same evolutionary piece of machinery. So what we're designed to do often is to think very linearly. We were taught in the mid 80s when I was in college that we were running out of oil by 2010, and we were going to have peak oil theory. And then we had an economist say that the world was going to die from starvation. Thomas Malthus, the English economist. And yet more people are dying from obesity-related illnesses than from starvation. And so I just want to make this last point, and then I'll shut up. I think we have to be very, very careful about where we think we are going, because I can guarantee you, to everybody in this room, and I know this about myself because, believe me, there's been a lot of things in my life that I didn't think were going to happen that actually happened, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, you don't know where we're going. But if I had to make a prediction, this will be a wonderful technology for mankind. But the politicians, they're not going to use it because they don't want the people voting. They really do want the lower voter participation so that they can stay in power. I mean, that's been the design in America for 50 years. And here's my last point. If we lose faith in our systems and we lose faith in profitability and we lose faith in democracy because of the divide, I think we're making a very, very big mistake. I think that our generation, for some reason, decided to take more economic rent out of the pie than what Henry Ford was doing in 1908. And if we move too far away from free market forces, which have lifted billions of people in the world out of poverty, and we start thinking about it in terms of less profits, I think we're in danger. And so I'm just wondering if we can have a cultural shift where people at the top actually condition themselves to take slightly less, like Henry Ford did. I have to go, so I apologize. And I appreciate you letting me talk.
Thank you. Yes, we are a bit out of time. However, just
It's been
Anthony.
last 11 days for me, but it was
Yes.
very enjoyable.
Yes, Anthony, one question for you before you leave. Yes, we are about a bit out of time. So, would you? So, one of the source of this uncertainty and dangers is called income inequality and rights inequality. So, and there's asset class which returns more than 20% for decades. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's venture asset class, and there are some people who do not have access to invest in it because they are not well educated and so on. So, would you prefer to keep them kind of cut from this, to have less rights to invest, or you prefer to invest into fraud prevention, including marketing practices prevention, fraudulent prevention, and invest in their financial education? What is the better option?
But let me frame my answer by saying as follows. I grew up in a blue collar family. My parents did not go to college. Okay. When I got into Harvard Law School, my mother thought it was Hartford Law School. She's like, "You're going to Hartford?" I said, "No, I'm going to Harvard." "Oh, it's in Hartford, Connecticut?" I said, "No, Ma." Okay. I'm telling you, you think I'm making that up? There are Italians in this room from the United States. You know I'm not making that up. Okay. So the reason I'm saying that, the entire area that I grew up in, nobody went to college. Okay. They were laying sheetrock, they were laying cables, they were landscaping lawns. And so, I experienced something in the 2016 campaign that changed my life. You know what it was? I spent 30 years going up the spire of financial independence to get to where I am today, to show up at a place like Davos. But I started in a polyester suit at my first interview at Goldman. The guy looked at me and said, "Dude, you're fully flammable. You got to go buy natural fibers." I just want to explain to you where I was. Okay. So I'm telling you, I know those people. What we need to do for those people is something that I was hoping the president was going to do. Okay. And he's not doing it, frankly, because it's too hard to do alone. Okay. And I've said this to my establishment friends that are in the political world: stop calling these people deplorable. Stop calling them white ethno-nationalists and all this other stuff. Start coming up with policies that provide equal opportunity, because in this room that there will never be equal outcomes, because Jeff Bezos is going to be born and he's going to dominate the earth. It's just the way it works. But we have to work on equal outcomes. You do that. I'm the product of a phenomenal public school education, and I'm able to sit here today because of it. But I can tell you right now, in a lot of the neighborhoods that I'm familiar with, if you go to those zip codes, they cannot get the public school education that I got with two working class parents. So you want to fix the thing? Let's move those people from the desperational working class to the aspirational working class. And we can do it. And it's not going to hurt anybody in this room. There's enough food and clothing and airplanes and gasoline for everybody in this room to still do that, like Henry Ford did 100 years ago. I'm sorry, guys, but I don't want them going there right now.
Thank you. Anthony, you should come for tomorrow's World Model reception. There will be a reception with unexpected stories. And you have a lot of stories for this. Okay, guys, how would you continue the discussion? Do you have some topics, or it's time to go to reception?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony. Oh, somebody called you. Let's make then a big photo together. Anthony, we keep you for a photo and then move into our reception. Oh, thanks for keeping Anthony. Do we have photographer? Just last photo. You made such a good story. Guys, stand up for the photo. Okay, come to the skin and stand for the joint photo. So you can put it on your Twitter with hashtag BEF token. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do it. Can you stand? Yeah.
Und 8 Jahre habe ich in Deutschland gelebt. Ja. Hey, wie geht's? Ja, hallo. Hey, grüß dich.
Okay. Please move a bit for the joint photo. Okay. Too few space. Many talented faces and few space. Move. Okay. Ready? Do photos. Okay. Any photos. Just do it now. Do it. Don't wait. Okay. Smile. Woo! Hey. Oh, sorry. Okay. Woohoo! Hey. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now we have a reception here. Let's free some chairs. Кирилл, проснись.